Hey Warpugs, so today we're going to be checking out something from Bricky, and this is what is Warhammer 40,000, a timeline of 40k lore. Now, if you know anything about me, like, I love timelines. I absolutely love to just, like, sit there and read a timeline about what happened when, where, why, and how. I don't know why that is. I really don't. But if you put like these long-winded articles of stuff in front of me, I'm not going to sit there and be that drawn to read them. But if you put a timeline in front of me, like a timeline of Rome, timeline of Greece, things like that, for some reason I'm just captivated by that kind of thing. And with any kind of timeline, you always look to who is providing it, and I think we're in for a treat right now because Bricky usually, I'm not going to say usually, always does a really good job of putting things out like this. So, with all that said, I think I'm in for a treat here. I think we're all in for one. Secondly, it has been quite a bit since I've seen anything about Bricky. I think the last time I saw anything about him was about a video game. I can't remember what the name of the video game was because I'm a boomer and I forget that kind of stuff all the time. It is what it is. Guys, the background here is going to be changing soon enough. I've already started to collect a little bit of stuff. Hopefully by, I don't know, by the end of the month, to celebrate Halloween, everything else like that, I'll be replacing stuff. I'm hoping I'm putting a shelf right back there. So, like, all my stuff that I have on a shelf is right back there. I want to put it over there. That's where I want to put it. And I just got a whole bunch of cool stuff I want to do. I hadn't done it up to this point because I had never anticipated on being here this long, but at this point, it's just a situation where I'm just going to do it. I am going to be pulling down the Star Trek poster and the artwork back there. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the artwork because really I have no place for it. I might sell it. I don't know. I might send it, like, I might hold a contest and send it to people. I don't know. It really just depends. I have no clue. I'll have to give it a shot. Either way, shape, or form, any way that it goes. Today, we're going to be watching a timeline of 40k lore. So, let's jump into this. I have been a fan of Bricky since the days of Nip Nip. And here we are. What is Warhammer 40,000? Let's go.
In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium exists the Empire of Man,
Yes.
a backwards carcass of an empire comprised of many devoted forces, gigantic robot knights, religious machine cultists, and incredibly heavily armored women, most likely with sweltering abs. And one must know what those abs taste like. My gamer Supps flavor is here. Sweet six-pack has arrived.
Nice.
A delicious and refreshing cherry pineapple blend.
Ooh.
Play this.
Guys, I'm going to be getting gamer subs pretty soon. I'm going to be trying them out, all that other kind of stuff, but oh my god, flavors. Guys, give me advice on flavors in the comment section down below. Seriously.
Sound.
Let's go.
Yes, my Bricky's official gamer subs flavor is here. Sweet six-pack.
And for some reason, this thing has set my quality down at 480p. Lovely. Let's go. 1080. Let's go. Now I can see his individual chin hair.
Not only in regular energy mode, but also in caffeine-free.
So you can get abs and energy abs.
The cherry pineapple flavor is not the kind of flavor that just smacks you in the face. It is light, it is refreshing, and it's one of those things where you sip it and you go, Not bad. And next thing you know, you are having your 4th refill the same day. And it is available now. Link in the description. Use code Bricky for 10% off your entire order. Not just for this, but for everything you buy.
Nice.
And I'm not dumb. If you buy any of these tubs, regular, caffeine-free of my sweet 6-pack flavor, you will get a Muscle Girl 32-ounce shaker completely for free.
Nice.
There are only a couple thousand of those shakers, so get it while supplies last.
Nice.
I cannot believe we finally have this, but I told everyone, like, once you find out the flavor, you'll be like, yeah, that tracks. And damn straight does it track. Sweet 6-pack available now. Code Bricky, link in the description.
Nice. We're already off to a good start, guys. We're already off to a good start. And we've got Mongolian throat singing. Let's go.
The age of knowledge and enlightenment has ended. The age of darkness has begun. Roughly 60 million years ago, there existed aliens. And these aliens lived short, painful lives. They belonged to radiation-stricken worlds and often died of various cancers before the age of 30. These aliens, the Necron tier, looked up to the stars and found extreme beings of real power. Beings with the ability to create life. The Old Ones of the galaxy. They asked these Old Ones for help. Please cure us of our ailments. To which the Old Ones said, nah. Piss off. So the Necron tier gathered together and did the sensible thing. They declared war upon these old beings and were promptly beaten into the dirt back to their short, painful lives.
Yeah, this not many records have survived of basically what the Old Ones did, but the Old Ones essentially took this civilization that was getting on the verge of having the same territory as, I would say, probably the Tau, and then thunderclapped them right back to their starting point. I mean, they spawn killed them, all essentially.
In the world of Warhammer, there is a hell. This hell is not like you and I know it. It's more of an afterlife, a place where dead souls end up. This place has many names: the Empyrean, the Sea of Souls, the Immaterium, and the Ether. But mostly,
see, this is why I have to get a green screen. I have been telling myself I need to get a green screen forever. I need to get a green screen.
We just call it the warp.
Yes.
While you and I know of hell as a place of horrors and punishment, the warp isn't really that. Not in the beginning. It's energy, but the kind of energy formed from thought and soul. Psychic energy, where the dead souls of people end up in a place that is impossible to understand. No laws of reality exist. Like, time is merely a suggestion, and it is not something that can be braved easily. The warp would be like sailing the ocean in a pirate movie. To jump from your ship would be certain death. To stay in the sea for too long on your boat could drive a man mad. And there are many dangerous things lurking in those depths. Yet, the sea is not evil. It simply is. Mostly. There are more malevolent,
unless there's sharks around,
beings in those waters, areas that you do not sail towards. This would be known as the realm of chaos. The realm of chaos exists in the warp as a special area led by 3 chaos gods. Khorne, the god of combat, murder, and slaughter, with a pile of skulls taken in his name. Tzeentch, god of change, mystery, and deceit, a confusing paradox of lies, schemes, and sorceries. And Nurgle, god of rot, pestilence, and Genshin impact. All things rot in the end. And Grandfather Nurgle is waiting for you with open arms.
Most of the followers of Nurgle are surprisingly happy. That's the weird thing.
These gods ruled their respective realm in the warp, sending their many followers against each other in the great game to be the most powerful of all the gods. So the warp exists. Hell is real, parallel to our galaxy, with the realm of chaos and its gods fighting for control. But there are also gods of real space, gods of the normal world too. They're called Catan, and they eat stars.
You think God stays in heaven because
I wouldn't necessarily call them gods. They were extremely advanced beings, but I wouldn't call them gods.
he too lives in fear of what he's created?
These star gods saw the plight of our poor Necron tier and how the old ones cast them aside and said, you know what? You guys want immortality? Oh, we will make it happen. We are the gods of the tangible, of real space. We can give you a cure.
That is the most punchable face of anything I've ever seen. It's also the one I wouldn't trust to tell me whether it's cold outside or not.
So then they ate all their souls.
Yes.
And turned them into robotic automaton, feasting on their souls and leaving a hollow shell of an intelligence left that is technically immortal. With the power of an entire species' souls, they turned their new robotic slaves on the old ones and hunted them to extinction. The Necron tier, now the soulless, undying Necrons, got their wish at the price of their souls. But we can count the number of kind gods on an amputated hand. With time, the selfish star gods turned on each other, fighting one another for more chances at glory and power.
See, they were doing this while they were still wrapping up the combat with the old ones. And this was after the old ones put together the Eldar and the Krork.
The leader of the Necrons, Zarek, the Silent King, the man who doomed his species when he accepted this deal, waited, planned, bide his time until he seized the perfect moment and turned his legions of undead citizens against the star gods. Gods cannot be killed, but they can be broken. So Zarek broke the star gods into thousands of pieces and locked them away in vaults, taking their free will away as they did to them, and sealed them away as basically Pokemon to be used as weapons in the future.
That is literally the most accurate statement I can think of about Catan.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's Pikachu!
It's the Void Dragon.
Zarek then, with his perfect memory, exiled himself for his sins, flying out to the darkness between galaxies to atone for what he had done. This entire situation, the genocide of the Old Ones and the rebellion of Zarek, will go down in history as the War in Heaven. It is the most brutal war the galaxy has ever seen and ever will see. This was a conflict that took an entire galaxy-spanning species and pitted them against gods that ate stars. The Necrons, rather crippled from, you know, the war in heaven, decide to go to sleep in gigantic tomb worlds on various planets until the upstart species of the galaxy died out.
Now, I agree with him and I disagree with him on that statement, because the real reason they went is because the Eldar themselves had come roaring into power after essentially the departure of the old ones, and because the Krork at that point were so powerful, they were huge. They were the size of apartment buildings, and they would just sit there and roll up and just start beating the ever-living hell out of them. The Necrons were powerful, but the Krork at that point were insane, and the Eldar were I hesitate to say which species was more powerful, but the Eldar are a lot better at picking the time and place of when they would engage and when they wouldn't. So the Necron at that point, after having fought the wars that they fought and essentially being exhausted, decided to go back down until the Eldar had screwed themselves over.
And so turns out, when you have a war that lasts tens, hundreds of thousands of years and involves the genociding of multiple species, the old ones of the galaxy, and the consumption of souls from an entire race, the warp gets a little wacky. You know,
Yeah.
if you had a kiddie pool and it was nice and calm, Korn is over there splashing about, so you don't really go in that direction. Nurgle has explosive diarrhea, so you don't really go in that direction either. But you can still kind of get in the pool. The pool's still fine. Turns out when you add a couple trillion souls to that kiddie pool, it'll make the waves a little more turbulent. And turns out a lot of them like to pick a side, Nurgle, Tzeentch, or Korn. So the once calmer warp, the once relaxing kiddie pool has now been bloated. A million years of war will certainly make Korn, god of murder and slaughter, more powerful.
Yes.
A million years of war will probably make Tzeentch, god of deception and change, a little more powerful. And good God, a million years of war will make Nurgle, god of decay, oh, just the tiniest bit more powerful.
Little bit.
Now, entering that kiddie pool is no longer fun, it's dangerous. The warp is now a problem. Hell is resembling hell a lot closer to what we imagined it originally. The Sea of Souls and the Realm of Chaos are now intertwined. So who else to brave the galaxy than a species that won't need to deal with that? The Eldar are space elves. They have a lot of the traits that you probably think of when you think of elves. Tall, slender, pointy ears, bit more androgynous looking, no matter what DeviantArt will tell you, and a bit stronger on the emotional side. The old ones, as I mentioned, could create life. And when they were getting, you know, absolutely bodied by the Catan and the Necrons, they made some new races to try to help them. One of them was the Eldar.
Now that's a little bit of contention. There's a little bit of contention about that, whether or not the Eldar were made by the old ones or not. There are some sources that say the Eldar evolved, and there are some that say that the old ones flat out went to town with some Play-Doh and then breathed life into them.
It didn't save them, but they're here now anyway. Oh, and also the orcs, but they're busy right now.
Yeah.
The Eldar are a particularly psychically powerful race, so they were really adept at being able to handle the new turbulent warp of chaos and good at killing Necrons.
Very
hence
good.
why they went to sleep. Being psychically gifted is basically like being a wizard, but you get your wizard powers from hell. This is called being a psyker. And basically, if you want to do cool wizard shit like lightning from your hands or reading someone's mind, you can do that, but you siphon the energy to do that from the warp. Luckily, the Eldar are very good at handling this without too many negative effects.
True.
Because, you know, summoning power from the Sea of Souls with the new Chaos friends can be a bit of an issue. But Eldar are pretty good at it. And you see, what's really cool and also awful about Warhammer is that most developed species travel long, faster than light distances by going through that warp. They create a tear in reality to unreality and move through it. Faster than light travel? Cringe. We go through hell itself to deliver your packages.
Yep.
For those of you who play Minecraft, you know how the nether is like a pocket dimension? So moving 10 spaces in the nether is actually moving something like 1,000 in the real world. That's basically what warp travel is. Just much like in the nether, there are a lot of things that want to kill you. The Eldar found a way to do so in between realities. Not regular reality, not the warp, something else. A purgatory of sorts, a fabricated psychic realm that allowed them to travel without fearing the negative effects of the warp.
Actually, the Eldar took the webway from the old ones, and then just forgot to tell everybody that it didn't originally belong to them.
The Eldar were the perfect fit for the new galaxy, and they took it with open arms and pointy ears.
Yep.
The empire of the Eldar spread everywhere, and it spread all the way until now, the 21st century. That's right, while you were watching NPC streams on TikTok, the space elves were ruling the galaxy, and they did so for quite a long period of time.
Oh yeah.
The 21st century came and went. Humanity grew and grew, all under the nose of their elf overlords. At this time, humans advanced, your classic sci-fi style way. We began to expand, colonize our solar system, terraformed our planets, created new and more powerful machines and starships. The age of Terra, also known as Earth, but we call it Terra here, was here. and existed between the 21st century all the way until the 15th millennium. Not much is known about this time, not much needs to be known. Humanity grew up, saw at the stars. It's classic.
It would make sense for the Age of Terror to start in the 20th, like, really in the 21st century. Mainly because of the fact that a lot of things happened. Most of the world at the beginning of the 1900s was still getting around by horse. And the technology itself had not altered that much, realistically, over the past 2,000 years in terms of what everyday people were going. I mean, you could always look at firearms and the industrial revolution, but technology just surged in the last, from 1900 to 2000. It just surged.
Then came the years between 15,000 and 25,000, the age of technology, or to some, the dark age of technology. This is when humanity reached a new apex of technological understanding. When you think of sci-fi, there's a lot of things you can think of. Star Trek, maybe Star Wars style. You can go cyberpunk dystopian. The age of technology was deep sci-fi, like a scientific prowess that fringed on magic. This is also when the first ever psychers began showing up in humanity. Individuals with the genetic mutation to be able to access the warp, and then because of that, travel through it. Humanity was no longer constricted to their early ways of travel. With warp travel, they could go anywhere in the galaxy. They equipped ships with gigantic AI machines, with everything you would ever need to know about mankind, and sent them out on colony ships to expand their influence across the galaxy. This was truly the golden age of humanity. And with every golden age, there is a fall. While the new human upstarts of the galaxy were reaching new levels of technology and prowess, the Eldar were engaging in
Debauchery!
Pretty much.
debauchery! What happens when a species has everything? You can produce unlimited food out of nothing. Your need for farmers and workers, gone. You have dominated the stars and have created a fast travel system that doesn't rely on the dangers of the warp. You have nothing else to do. You have no struggles, no problems, and feel as if there is nowhere else to go. Well, you begin to experiment. The Eldar started harmless enough. You know, you take a serious interest in your species' culture, your arts, paintings, poems, plays. These are Eldar, elves, remember? Their emotions are heightened, more powerful than us humans. So your plays get louder. They start to push on the limits of your hearing ability. Your music becomes different, more deranged. It pushes the boundaries of what is art. The visual spectacle of art becomes more bizarre, more delusional, more eccentric. And let's not forget a very important sense: touch. Pornography is one thing. I'm a virgin. Brothels is another. What if they all mixed? What if your brothels were part of your art and music? And what if those became more deranged? The boundaries of debauchery were not just met, but shattered. Next thing you know, murder is commonplace and often mixed with the art, music, and sex. Pain is a common byproduct of entertainment. Whatever sensation you can have must be increased, must be enhanced, must be taken to the limits. The Eldar Empire slipped into a nightmarish realm of debauchery and excess, with the worst of it taking place in a city in the Webway, a black market for these kinds of heinous acts known as Kamara. Some Eldar saw the writing on the wall, saw what was happening to their species and how far they had slipped. So they boarded continent-sized starships called craft worlds and left their empire, seeking a more enlightened, calmer existence among their peers. Some, those in Kamara, pushed it to even greater heights, relishing the pain and torment they inflicted on those around them. All during this, the warp, the yin to the yang of the world, was fed by these emotions.
And one thing to remember about the Eldar during this time period, and for millions of years prior, I mean, this was a slow burn. It didn't pop up out of nowhere. It was a slow burn. But one thing that wound up happening with the Eldar was they essentially had achieved such mastery over themselves and the way that they would perceive, the way that they interacted with the galaxy at large, that death was no longer a concern for them. Death was no longer a worry for them. So what in the end wound up happening was you had everything that he just said about, everything's taken care of, all this other kind of stuff, and then add into that fact that when you die, your soul and your consciousness leaves your body, hangs out in the warp for a little bit in a pretty much protected place, and then whenever you so decide that you're tired of hanging out in the warp, you're going to go into a new body. You're going to be born into a new body as a baby. And then that's how the Eldar had it. That's how they had it. So, at the end of the day, the thing that brought the Eldar down was boredom.
By the psychic power of the Eldar, by the souls taken in these depraved acts on a galactic scale. And just like that, Eldar ended. Slaanesh, the fourth chaos god, was birthed into existence and consumed the souls of 90% of the Eldar population.
Yep.
Those that fled were spared the worst of it, and those in the Webway and Kamara were able to stave off the pull of Slaanesh so long as they continued to commit horrid acts of torture and violence. But for the majority of the Eldar, their empire died with Slaanesh's birth. The new fourth chaos god, she who thirsts, the god of unspeakable excess of pleasure, pain, hedonism, and perfection, had been born.
Yep.
With the fall of the Eldar Empire came the ruin of humanity. Slaanesh's birth sent storms in the warp across the galaxy, making travel between star systems impossible. Coupled with a huge classic AI rebellion, as a staple in these sci-fi settings.
Okay, so he's actually got this a little bit reversed. Slaanesh's birth actually came at the end of the Age of Strife.
Humanity began to suffer the Age of Strife. Now, planets that relied on intergalactic travel were completely cut off. Long-range messages normally sent through the warp were snuffed out. If you were a planet that was great at mining stuff but couldn't get food, well,
Eat
you know
rocks.
that movie about the rugby players in the mountains? Oh, and because of these insane warp storms and fluctuations, psychers began to appear among the human population
Everywhere.
a bit more often. Now, this initially had them hunted down as witches, because that's pretty common in this setting, but some deemed it right to protect them. Unfortunately for those people, psychers, because they open a gateway to the warp, don't really know how to use their powers well, and they kind of attract demons who then force their way through the psyker as a conduit of sorts and begin to slaughter the population of your planet.
So the one area that he is off, like just off in the timeline on here, is when the warp was becoming more and more turbulent with the essentially the gestation of Slaanesh, and increasingly it became harder and harder to get through the warp. You add in the AI rebellion, and as well as the increasing turbulence of the warp, as well as a few other factors that happened, and eventually the golden age of technology was simply simply brought down at that point. The Eldar still had 5,000 years of insanity before Slaanesh was actually birthed. The birth of Slaanesh is what blew out all those warp storms that the Eldar had essentially created by having the 451st blood orgy that month. So, slight deviation. He might be looking at older lore, but that's neither here nor there. This is still great.
The Age of Strife was a catastrophic period of time for humanity and set back their progress tenfold over the not one, not two, but 5,000 year period. During this time, the age of humanity that we know began to form. Worlds equipped with large mechs for agriculture began to equip them with weapons to defend from alien and demonic invaders. Over 5,000 years, this became a custom and tradition, dubbing them as Night Worlds, a feudal society of honor-bound knights in gigantic robots that uphold the chivalric code to defend their worlds and honor. A group of individuals on Mars, after radioactively bombing their planet to become inhospitable to human life, ran their entire lives underground on the few life support systems keeping them alive. Those technicians who could work on the machines and keep them operational were revered, and over 5,000 years went from skilled members of society to full-blown priests. The cult Mechanicus, or tech priests of Mars, formed in the ashes of the Red Planet with a religious fervor and doctrine on the cult of the machine god. And on Earth, or Terra, techno-barbarian tribes waged war across the planet in a Mad Max style of blood and gore, until finally, a mysterious man who lived in the shadows of Terra for millennia finally revealed himself to the populace. His name was the Emperor. He deemed himself the Emperor of mankind. Where did he come from? I don't know. Why is he 10 feet tall and the most powerful psyker of all of mankind? I don't know. Why is he basically immortal? I don't know. Where'd Cotton Eye Joe go? Who knows? But he's here, and he isn't happy with all of you ripping up Terra. So he began the Unification Wars, where he and a very early version of the famous Space Marines, the Thunder Warriors, reunited Terra under a single banner. With blood. Then, after taking over Earth, he reunited the Thunder Warriors into the fucking dirt. This is where we get the Imperium of Man, also known as the Imperium. The new faction headed by the Emperor of Mankind, with a treaty signed with the cult Mechanicus on Mars to spread out and reunite humanity after the catastrophic Age of Strife. But first, the Emperor is going to need some smaller versions of himself. 20 of them, 18 of them, I meant. Gene-crafted sons of the strongest human to ever live. All of them possess unparalleled strategic power, intelligence, formidable strength and size. A real powerful force to unite humanity and stop the chaos of the current galaxy. Speaking of chaos, you ever seen that image of that guy? It's like throwing the baby like a basketball. It's about what happened. The Chaos Gods intervened and grabbed the 18 Primarch gestation pods and yeeted them across the galaxy at a whim, everywhere they could possibly go. A galactic game of keep away. So the Emperor had to get them back. So begins the Great Crusade, a crusade across the stars.
Well, he lost all but one of them, technically. Alfarius really didn't go anywhere. Omegon did.
To reunite not just humanity, but the Emperor with his fallen sons. The first to be found was Horus.
The first to be found and publicly recognized was Horus.
One of the strongest and most noble sons. The Emperor carried with him a legion of newly crafted warriors with genetic material made from their Primarch father. These are the newly made Space Marines. For Horus, his were the Luna Wolves. And as the Emperor continued on his great crusade, he found more and more of his sons, reuniting them with their individual Space Marine legions. Leman Russ, the cunning hunter with the Space Wolves. Rogel Dorm, the Phalanx with the Imperial Fists. Angron, the Barbarian, the very angry with his World Eaters. Fulgrim, the Perfect, with his Emperor's children. And Jagatai Khan, the Swift, the Stoic,
the cocaine rattled,
and his white scars. Those were just some of the 18, and one by one his lost Primarch sons were returned to him, and their Space Marine legions returned to them. The Great Crusade saw humanity once again reconquer the stars, returning worlds of humanity back to the Imperium and killing any and all who stood against their noble crusade. But in the years of the 31st millennia, treachery would break this all apart.
Men, we don't know what we did.
Horus, the emperor's most beloved and favored sons, named War Master for the Crusade, succumbed to the power of chaos and daddy issues. All because of that bastard Erebus. Yo, fuck Erebus.
Fuck
Slowly, Horus would become corrupted, turning the emperor's sons against him. This begins the most pivotal moment in our story, and the one that has like 50 books written about it. The
67 now.
Horus heresy.
I think.
Half. 9 of the 18 Primarchs turned against the Emperor, and the following years were a bloody battle for the throne of Terra. The Emperor originally was working on a special webway project, just like the Eldar, to make faster-than-light travel significantly easier and safer. Really improve humanity to allow them to conquer the stars without the risk of the warp. Well, this big red idiot named Magnus kind of blew a hole into that, literally and figuratively. So
Magnus did everything wrong.
Biggie over there is stuck on a gigantic golden throne, holding back the oncoming rush of demons and powering the Astronomicon. Basically a big North Star for people who are sailing in the warp to help them navigate. The Horus heresy saw many loyalist and traitor legions pitted against each other in a bloody war until it reached Terra itself. Horus, unable to break through the lines and with time running out, made a gambit and opened his ship up to be boarded. The Emperor took this challenge, quickly allowing someone else to take control of the throne as he teleported his way onto Horus's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. The Emperor, unable to truly kill his most beloved son,
I cannot wait for this book to come out because I have my theories.
changed his mind right quick when Horus strangled the life out of his other son, Sanguinius.
Yes.
Oh no!
I'm sure you've seen this image at some point.
Yeah.
The Emperor then said, "I'm not gonna sugarcoat it," and proceeded to psychically blast Horus into complete oblivion, killing not only his body, but also his soul.
Yeah.
Horribly wounded from this duel, the Emperor is returned to the Golden Throne in order to keep the demons at bay and power the Astronomicon. Because
What Magnus did to you guys that might not be aware, essentially, if at any point now that the Emperor stops being able to power the Golden Throne, and a Psyker who quite literally doesn't exist right now. I mean, there's no current Psyker that exists as powerful enough to sit on that throne. If a Psyker that, what's the best way to say it, isn't as powerful as the second most powerful Psyker ever to exist in humanity, doesn't sit on that throne immediately, Terra itself becomes the center of a new Eye of Terror. And, yeah, that's a bad thing.
Because without it, humanity would be flying blind. There he sits, slowly dying from his wounds and the strain of powering the Golden Throne. The only thing keeping him alive is feeding upon the souls of 1,000 Psykers every single day. This was 10,000 years ago. We are now in the 41st millennium, modern day. Warhammer 40,000. The Emperor remains on his throne. The Imperium is a rotting carcass of an empire, a fascist, xenophobic cult that worships the Emperor as a deity despite him never wanting to be seen as a god. Over the span of 1 million worlds, the ecclesiarchy, the church of the Emperor, is spread throughout. Inquisitors with unparalleled power root out any sign of heresy or lack of devotion to their god Emperor. The other half of the traitor legions move about as Chaos Space Marines, raiding and pillaging the Imperium, while the loyalist half does their best to keep the Empire alive. All throughout this, they must endure Orc invasions, Eldar trickery, the reawakening of the Necron race, and the Great Devourer, the newest tyrannid threat from the darkness between galaxies that has arrived to feast on their worlds. The theme of Warhammer 40,000 is regression and intolerance. Every major faction in Warhammer has had an empire that spanned the galaxy only to be crushed back to a hollow shell of what they once were due to their own failings.
Except for the Tau. But fuck the Tau.
Culture, the arts, personal freedom, religious tolerance, the simple possibility that alien life might not want to kill us is considered heretical and is often met with a pistol to the head.
Yes.
There is no time for these things. All there is time for is worship of the God Emperor and a million wars to be fought. To be a human in the 41st millennia is 99% of the time to live a horrible existence, to be one of trillions of other humans across a million worlds throughout the galaxy. A galaxy where AI is outlawed, so humans are repurposed and lobotomized to become slaves. A place.
And the reason behind that was, simply put, the AI rebellion. That's when they started to use servitors. And if you don't know what a servitor is, it's the worst.
Where lack of devotion is met with death. And if you even have devotion, there is a good chance the threats to the galaxy, chaos, and aliens will kill you anyway.
True.
Warhammer is a world where you revel in being bad. There are protagonists, there are antagonists, but every faction is some shade of evil. Because playing the bad guys is always more fun. And my friend, you have a selection. So
Yeah,
pick
you
up
really
that
do.
las gun soldier. You and the other 3 million men and women in this single deployment on this single world in this single battle will now show them the might of the God Emperor. That weapon in your hands has killed 99% of the alien populations in this galaxy. Unfortunately for you, soldier, you're fighting the final 1%. May the Emperor be with us. Glory to the first man to die, for in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
Yes. And it's awesome. And I love this artwork here. Yay. Yay.
Thank you, everyone. I hope I have helped teach you about Warhammer. If you are a brand new person and you want to get a bit more about the world, there are multiple books that do a great job at showing off how the entire universe operates. For the most part, Warhammer is a setting, and often stories are told in that setting with a Warhammer coat of paint. Gaunt's Ghosts is Band of Brothers, but Warhammer. It's honestly one of my #1 recommendations for new people.
Very much so.
Assassinorum Kingmaker is an assassin novel involving those night worlds. This is Mission Impossible, but Warhammer. Bloodlines is Blade Runner, but Warhammer. And the list goes on and on. If I had to recommend a brand new novel for a first-time Warhammer enjoyer, these are the 4 I would recommend. Horus Rising, Caiaphas Cain, First and Only Gaunt's Ghost, and Infinite and the Divine.
I would, if I was recommending to a new person, I would not recommend Infinite and the Divine. First and Only, Horus Rising, Caiaphas Cain. I would recommend Caiaphas Cain out of those 4, hands down, because not only do you get to learn about 40K, and you get to learn about the factions, you get a generalized overview of the factions. You also get to have fun, because they are rather funny books. They only get funnier when you find out more.
They are all fantastic novels, and they will get you acquainted with the world without needing to know too much.
True.
Thank you all so much for watching this video. Get yourself a Gamer Supps flavor. Enjoy the new sweet 6-pack. And if you're curious and you want, just a little lord, you can find him in the description as well on my merchandise store, orchidate.com. Thank you for watching, and may the God Emperor be with us. Come on.
Guys, the links for these things will be down in the description below. If you are somebody that does not know much about 40K, wow, that was kind of weird. If you are somebody that doesn't know that much about 40K, I can't tell you enough how much I recommend the Caiaphas Cain series. I recommend it wholeheartedly. They're mainly because it's good light reading. I recommend the audiobooks 110%. it's not heavy. It's not brutally heavy. If I were to tell you, like, if you want to get a really off-the-ground footing where you get to understand why the universe is the way it is, and you don't mind reading close to 70 books, then Horus Rising would be the good place to start on the Horus Heresy series. It would be the best place to start. In truth, you need to read about, God, closer to 90 books at this point for the entire 30K experience. But what it really boils down to is I would recommend Caiaphas Cain 110% for anybody new to the setting. But if they are more of the serious type, the Eisenhorn books are also excellent. If you want to introduce somebody to the Inquisition, and Tanith first and only. What do I got to say? Gaunt's Ghosts. What do I got to say? Guys, I'm going to head out from here. This was really good. I enjoyed it. There were some spots where I'm not sure where he was getting his sources from, but I do know where I got my sources from. As far as I'm going to have to jump off of here and then reread everything that I've ever read, just to make sure I'm not missing something. But in the long term, guys, I love videos like this. I love timelines. I absolutely love timelines. Check the description down below for the lore channel. Old Man Lore Stories and Theories. I just did a video with Pancreas No Works down there. And it was on the Avatar of Cain. And I do lore. I scream into the mic. That's what I do. I will catch you guys next time.